In the past, managing IT infrastructure was a hard job. System administrators had to manually manage and configure all the hardware and software that was needed for the application to run. However, in recent years, the thing had changed dramatically. Trends like cloud computing revolutionized and improved the way how the organization design, develop, and maintain their IT infrastructure. One of the critical components of this trend is called infrastructure as a code. And it is what we are going to talk about now. Let's start defining infrastructure as a code, or IaC. According to Wikipedia, infrastructure as a code is the process of managing and provisioning infrastructure through a defined file or file rather than manually configuring resources in a user interface. In simple words, infrastructure as a code means to manage your IT infrastructure using configuration files. To manage those configuration files, we need tools. And that is why Terraform is important. Terraform is as infrastructure as a code tool from HashiCorp. It's a tool for building, changing, and managing infrastructure in a safe, repeatable way. Operators and infrastructure team can use Terraform to manage environments with a configurations language called the HashiCorp Configuration Language, HCL, for human reachable, and you automate deployments. Some advantages about Terraform are platform agnostic. That means that Terraform doesn't depend of any cloud provider to deploy any resource. So in others environments like Azure, you can use Azure IAM, for example, but you can use that tool only for Azure, or CloudFormation for AWS. But in this case, you can use Terraform for any cloud provider. Other important feature is state management. Terraform write in a JSON file all the components or resources that you are deploying in your in your infrastructure. That means if you create any manual or change any component by manually, Terraform will compare your infrastructure with the state. And then you will see what is the difference between your code and the infrastructure that you already deployed in your cloud provider. One of the key features here is the source control management. Why? Because remember, we are using configuration files. Now you can save your code and make versioning of that code in any Git provider. So now you can share the code with across all your team members and incorporate that code with build and deploy process. Other important feature is modular design. You can use module to interact different components. or cloud providers. This is important because, in fact, you can reuse the code to deploy new infrastructure. In my opinion, one of the best features is import existing resource. Doesn't matter if you are starting creating the infrastructure in your project. If you has already created any resource in your cloud provider, you can import those resources into your state and code file. So you can start saving your current infrastructure instantly by using this process. See you on the next video.